Hi, John. Congratulations, first of all. Patrick Willis just spoke to us, and he was talking about how honored he is to be in a class with you and Bryant Young to be honored in the Hall of Fame for the 49ers. Share with us what it's like to be grouped with players of that caliber.
Um, Words can't explain, to be honest. Just to be associated, or like you said, be put in that category with those players. You know, I remember watching Patrick. After I retired, I watched Patrick play, and it was like, man, this guy's all over the field. You know, sideline to sideline. I used to think to myself, I wouldn't want to be a receiver going against him, chasing me down the field, because Patrick's pretty quick to be a linebacker. You know what I mean? Linebackers I played with, yeah, they were strong, they were quick, but I mean, the linebackers that you're seeing in the game today basically are like wide receivers, they're able to run from sideline to sideline, run plays down. You know, to watch him play, to play alongside of Brian Young was, you know, another unbelievable guy that came into the league. And it was like, I remember when they first came to the Niners. It was so funny because Ricky Waters, Notre Dame alumnus also, you know, he was high on BY, high on BY. He's a Notre Dame guy, Notre Dame guy. And I mean, when Brian Young got there was not a doubt that he couldn't play, you know, especially on that team with the guys that were already there, and then throw him into the mix along with it. It was just an unbelievable squad.
Hey, John, this is Cam Inman of the San Jose Mercury News. Congratulations to you. Can you catch us up on what you're doing with your life nowadays, and if you still got the trucking business?
No. I got away from trucking last year, and basically now I'm just enjoying retirement, as they say, you know, taking one day at a time.
Hey, John, Tracy from Fangirl Sports Network. Congratulations. When you look at this current group of 49ers wide receivers, what excites you about them?
They're young, they're hungry, and they're looking to make a name for themselves in this league. I mean, as you said, there's some great wide receivers that they have now, and I'm excited to see this season. You know, it's been a year basically since you could go in and really watch football. Watching it on TV with no fans is almost like basically a scrimmage in training camp, is the way a player would look at it. You don't have that crowd behind you, that type of deal. But I'm really excited about the receivers, like I said, because you got some that have been there. You got guys that are coming in, and the old guys always prepare the younger guys. You know, this is what it takes. This is what we do. You know what I mean? And there's times where you're going to be in a situation where you don't think that I'm going to be called upon. You know what I mean? But that time comes at any point, any time of the year. I remember when my first chance to start was, I'll never forget, it was Green Bay. And the late, great Dwight Clark was out practicing. We were doing warm-ups, and that's when he tore his Achilles. And they came to me that game and said, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Okay, I feel okay." They said, "Are you ready?" And I'm looking like, okay, where's this going? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready like I am every game. And then they say to me, "You got to start today because of what had happened to Dwight." And it was one of those moments, like I said, you never know when you're going to be called upon. You know, going into that game, last thing on my mind was that something was going to happen to Dwight in warm-ups, and now I got to start the game. But that's what happened, and I got my shot, and I made the best of it.
Hey, John, Kate Rooney with Cron 4 Sports in San Francisco. Congrats and thanks for talking with us. When you look at this current 49ers team, you know, that Kyle Shanahan has put together over the last couple of years, in what ways does it remind you of the championship teams that you played on? And then also, what are some of the differences that you see?
Well, it compares to some of the teams that championship teams I played on. It's a good core group of guys. It's guys that want to play together. In other words, you can have teammates and not play together. But if you have teammates that you play together with, that you know what they're going to do. In other words, we could go into a game and I can already anticipate what you're going to do on a certain play because that's how we practice. We know each other. I know what you're going to do. You know what I'm going to do, type of deal. And that group has that same work ethic and think process that we had. You know, now the difference is, and I tell people this all the time, I always see when there's a game going on, an announcer will say they're running a version of the West Coast offense. I haven't seen a real version of the West Coast offense since we got away from it. The West Coast offense was all about timing. Everything is timing. And if it's ran correctly, you can't stop it. I don't care what type of defense you jump in. If it's ran properly, there's no way to stop it. You know, and I look at this team now and how Kyle has built up to where it is now. Yeah, they're running some little shots of the West Coast offense, but it's not the true West Coast offense.
John, one of the 49ers rookies wants to be a Pro Bowler as a special teamer. That's one of his goals as a rookie. You made a name for yourself in your second year as being an outstanding special teams player. What would you say to rookies that want to carve out their role that way?
If that's your desire, stick with it. And the reason I say that, and I'll never forget this, I remember when I first went out and tried out for punt returning, I asked Bill Walsh. I said, hey, I like to return punts. And he looked at me and said, no, you wouldn't be good at it because you take too long of a stride. And my response was, I'm only asking for a shot. What do you have to lose? That was my response. And I'll never forget it. It was basically my rookie year. We played in the Hall of Fame game against Kansas City in camp. Dana McLemore was the punt returner at the time. Bill allowed him to return the first two punts. Then he put me in the game. So here's my first shot. I get the punt. I guess I get about 20-some, 30-some yards on my first punt return. Come back the next one. I break it, but the punter catches me. My third punt return, I catch it. And this time I say to myself, if I get through this first line, that punter's not going to get me. I come through the first line, get away. Here's me and the punter, 1-on-1. I get away from the punter, go down the sideline and score. And I remember walking back to the bench, and I walked past Bill, and I said to him, I said, yeah, you're right. I take too long of a stride. This wouldn't be a good idea for me. And we both just laughed about it, and it just went on from there. So to any young guy that's looking to make a team, make it to the Pro Bowl, being a special teamer, go for it. That's my advice. Stick to what you want to do.
Hey, John, William Hammonds here, Sports Fans Rap. How you doing? Congratulations to you. Man, it's good to see you. What's your greatest or most memorable moment with the 49ers? And then how do you want to be remembered?
Well, my biggest moment was, number one, being drafted by the 49ers. That's number one. Number two, a lot of people didn't know this gentleman. He's deceased now, but he was the gentleman who brought me to the 49ers, Neil Smith. I remember my senior year at Delaware State, him coming to Delaware State and asking me if I would be interested in playing in the blue-gray game. And I said, sure. And he said, well, it's Christmas Day. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't mind. And from that game, then became the Senior Bowl, and a couple other bowl games behind it. But I was in the thought process of, it was just, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it was something that I didn't anticipate. I'll put it that way. The day of the draft, I was asleep. I wasn't thinking about the draft, wasn't anticipating being drafted by no NFL team because I was known growing up for baseball. That was my game. Everybody knew me for baseball. So when I did wound up being drafted by the 49ers, all my friends back home thought that it was a misprint because they knew me for baseball. No one knew me for football, I never really, when I played football midget league, I was a running back and a cornerback. When I got to high school, I was a free safety. I didn't become a wide receiver until I went to college. And the reason I became a receiver, I said to myself, if I can catch a baseball this small, I know damn well I should be able to catch a football this many times bigger than that baseball. And that's what made me want to be a wide receiver. And I came in and I just went for it.
Hey, John, my name is Matt Mayoko from NBC Sports Bay Area. You ask any 49er fan about John Taylor, and two things come to mind. The 290-plus yard slants that you took to the house against the Rams, and, of course, the winning touchdown in Super Bowl 23. When you meet 49er fans now or for the past 15, 20 years, what's the one thing that they talk about, and which one of those two kind of sticks most in your mind?
Well, of course, the Monday night game with the 290-yarders would stick in my mind, along with the Super Bowl catch, Growing up as a kid, everybody makes that call. If I can make this throw, if I can make this catch, we win the Super Bowl, we win whatever the championship is. And for me, I would say, and people ask me, I would think it would be the 290-yarders or the Super Bowl catch. But the most memorable moment that I had, I'll never forget, we were playing in Seattle at the Old Kingdom. And Steve Bono was the quarterback at the time, and we were losing. And we had to drive the length of the field in the fourth quarter to win the game. Steve Bono hits me with a 20-some yard pass. We move down the field. The very next pass he throws to me in the end zone, and I catch it. Now I catch it, and I start to relax because I'm in the end zone. And all of a sudden, Eugene Robinson, free safety for Seattle at that time, stuck the crown of his helmet in the sternum of my chest. And I did a complete somersault, landed on the ground, still holding the ball in my arm. And all my teammates are coming over to congratulate me, for making the catch. And I come up swinging at people, and everybody's like wondering what's going on. They didn't know I couldn't breathe. I had got hit so hard that I couldn't breathe. So I wound up just saying to myself, when I got up, everybody looked at me, and I'm walking to the sideline. It's like it's almost like I'm struggling in a sense to get to the sideline. And I guess it was maybe 2 weeks later, Sports Illustrated, when they did their advertisement, how they go, Sports Illustrated, you'll get a big bang out of it. I was that guy getting the big bang. So that's one of my most memorable moments right there. That I'll never forget.
Do you remember, was that the play that Zagaris came into the end zone and went after Robinson?
Yes, that was the exact play right there. Yeah, that was the game. That I'll never forget.
I was going to say, what do you remember about Z's involvement in that play? I believe he got kicked out of the game, right?
Yeah, he got kicked off of the sideline. Zagaris was ready to fight. He was ready to fight because it was like I said, I had completely relaxed, because the play pretty much was over. They said touchdown. That hit that I received in that game today would be an automatic suspension and fine. That's how much different the game is now, right?
kind of in that same grain, you look at what the rules are like now versus what they were like when you were playing. What would you see yourself doing if you were able to play at this time and with the rules that there are now?
I'd have a whole lot of fun. For one reason, I mean, when we played, we could get beat up from the line of scrimmage all the way down the field. Now you can't touch that receiver past 5 yards. You know, a receiver has a great advantage now, opposed to back when we played. You know what I mean? Like I said, they can come up, bump and run, ride you all the way down the field. Now you can't touch them after 5 yards. And then, you know, there's so many rules that have changed in the game compared to when we played. For example, the hitting a defenseless receiver. I always felt that that's a bad rule because a receiver is always defenseless because he's not looking for the DB, he's looking for the ball. So anytime you hit him, that flag could be thrown. You know, it's just those little different subtleties of the game now compared to the game then. You know, now it's nothing for a receiver to be 1,500 yards. You know, that's almost like an annual thing. You know, back when we played, you didn't see that very much because, like I said, we could get beat up all the way down the field. Now you can't do that.
Hey, John, I just wanted to talk a little bit about your camaraderie with Jerry Rice. I mean, I never forget when Jerry catch a pass, you almost right next to him, knocking cats down, and you guys fighting all the way down the field. So kind of talk about that relationship and how you guys gelled together.
Well, it was all about, like you said, gel together, playing together. You know, have been told many a times if I'd have went to another team, I would have been their star receiver. Well, my thing was always this: once I got into the league, all I wanted to do was win a championship. You know, I didn't have to be the main receiver. You know what I mean? As long as we won the game, that's all I worried about. As far as having the most passes that game, the most yardage that game, I let that handle itself. My main concern was at the end of the day, did we have a W or L? That was the main concern. And as far as going downfield, blocking, me and Jerry, that type of deal, that was part of our game. You know, one thing that you always learn is you never know when a running back or a receiver, tight end, whoever is going to break a play. And here you are, instead of going to the man you're supposed to get, you're busy looking at the play. And I always call people like that, there's a fan on the field. In other words, you're actually a player, but you're like a fan because you're standing there looking at the game like the fans are looking at the game. No, go to who you're responsible for, you know? And that's what we did. I mean, you could look at a lot of those games we played in, you always saw receivers downfield blocking, you know, because like I said, you never knew when running back, quarterback, tight end, whoever it might be, might break. And then you turn around and your man is the one who makes the tackle. You know, when you go in the films on that Monday, they have this little red dot, as we used to call it. And all you see is that little red dot constantly pointed at you, talking about what you should have did opposed to what you did do, you know?
Hey, John, you had a front row seat of one of the greatest quarterback transitions or controversies in NFL history as they went from Joe to Steve Young. The 49ers now have Jimmy Garoppolo and this rookie Trey Lance. And I'm curious, what would your advice be on how the team handles that and maybe also how the receivers would handle it?
Well, as far as the receivers handle it, it doesn't matter. Whoever your quarterback is, you got to play. You know, your job is to catch passes, block downfield, that type of deal. So your responsibility is not going to change. Now, as far as the quarterback situation with Garoppolo and Trey, my thing would be this. You know, a lot of people say, I don't know anything about him. I never heard about him. You know, I just seen a couple little clips that they showed off of television. And my response is simply this. You didn't know my name either. Half the people didn't know where Delaware State was. And I'm sure when I was drafted, first thing came out of people's mouth was, where's Delaware State? You know what I mean? So to look at them, to not have seen them playing on the weekends, you know, prime example, I went to Delaware State. Delaware State's not going to be on NBC, ABC, or CBS on the weekend. You know what I mean? Same thing with Trey. Same thing. His school, North Dakota State, they're not going to be on every weekend. Yeah, you might get a little clip here and there of the game, especially if he did something good. But to see him on a regular basis, no, you weren't going to see that. So with him coming in, yeah, there's a lot of people that are leery. Well, we don't know him. Like I said, once again, didn't know me either.
All right, we'll do one last one with Jen.
John, I think there's a conception of what fans think Bill Walsh is like versus what players think Bill Walsh was like. Can you give us a little insight on what he was like on a coach, and maybe a story about, you know, just that kind of gives us a little insight of what he was like behind the closed doors?
Oh yeah, Bill was the type of coach he was a coach, but he was a player's coach. You know, he would come in the locker room at times and do some funny stuff to make everybody laugh. You know what I mean? Prime example, we were in one game, and I'll never forget, he comes in at halftime, and we're standing there, and he's talking, and then all of a sudden he makes the comment, just keep those happy feet. Just keep those happy feet. And in your mind, you're like, what is he talking about, happy feet? And what he's referring to was Joe's drops, his steps on whatever type of route we were running, whatever the play call was, you know, because there were 3-step drops, 5-step drops, or 7-step drops, you know, and he would come in and it was almost like he was doing a dancing routine, you know, and we're kind of like looking at him, like thinking in our mind, what is he doing? And that's when he would say, I like his feet. I like those happy feet. Basically, he was talking about Joe's footwork. But when you were a rookie like me at the time, you didn't have no idea what he was talking about. You didn't know whether he was talking about you or somebody else. So it was like, once you got the feel for Bill, he was that coach that was a no-nonsense coach, but would listen to what a player would say. Prime example, if you're in the game, you know, there's a lot of coaches that a player can come off the field and suggest, hey, this is what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. And that coach would say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Bill was sort of the opposite. I remember we were playing in a game against New Orleans Saints at Candlestick, and we had just came off on the offensive series, and I came to the sideline, and I told Bill, I said, listen, I said, this cornerback is not touching me at all when they come up in cover 9. He's just letting me free release inside. I said, if we hit something quick, I think it'll be good. Very next play, he calls a slant pattern to me. I catch it, split the free safety and strong safety, and score. That's the difference with Bill and some of your other coaches. That would be, no, that won't work. Well, nothing will work unless you try.